What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Central Virginia Sport Performance Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jay DeMayo, and today, this episode is a long time coming, one that I've wanted to get down for a very long time. Get the opportunity to sit down and chat with my good buddy, Casey Cathrall, out of the University of Dayton. The Mighty Flyers in the house today. Casey, thank you so much for taking some time on a game day, bro. Really appreciate you being here with us, man. As always, it's great to see you, bro.
Thanks, man. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. So listen, for the 10% of a human being that doesn't know who Casey is and how he got to UD, give us the elevator pitch. Who is Casey and how did you get to the Mighty Flyers?
Sure, man. So, growing up, ball was life. Playing AAU basketball wasn't very good. So, as they say, if you can't teach. If you can't teach gym. So that's kind of what we are. Is just really special gym teachers here. So now, I found out physical therapy at Ithaca College. I was doing my doctoral degree there and got to where you're getting in the clinical settings. I was bored out of my mind and, found this thing called strength conditioning, kind of pivoted. And that's how I got into it. Never really lifted weights, never really did any of that stuff until I was probably a junior in college, outside of, the bench or bicep curl that everyone did in their football high school weight room or whatever. So got into that, went to University of Miami, was an intern under Jim Crumpos and Alex Parr, was there, then bunch of other stops till eventually my first full-time gig was UMBC. Went from UMBC to La Tech with Eric Kunkel. I was there for 2 years. Got the opportunity to come to Dayton under Coach Grant. And then after our first year, I left for a year, went back to Miami where I did my master's and was there for a year and just wasn't the fit for me. And Coach Grant hit me up asking if I knew anyone because their person was leaving. And I was like, me. And so I've been back ever since. This is year 8 of 9. So I think it's my seventh season back, and love it here. Love Coach Grant. Love the staff, and other than the cold weather we were talking about earlier, I love it here in Dayton. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah, it just needs to be noted that this is 2 guests in a row from Ithaca College, and as a Cortland State alum, still love you, Case, but there's just the one part of it where,
joke.
yeah, man, I just the world is healing, folks, and it starts with the biggest little game in the nation. And if you don't know about that, I apologize for your sports ignorance. You should probably Google it. But nah, man, so that's really a cool ride, and I think that the one spot I didn't know about was La Tech. There is a ton of great strength coaches that have come out of La Tech.
Yeah. No, it was a great spot. Kurt Hester was there. Kurt passed away. Amazing dude, obviously. I didn't really work under him, but as being in separate weight rooms, he always reached out, made me feel included, and was just a really knowledgeable guy. So I really enjoyed Kurt. But yeah, he had a bunch of great strength coaches come through there, and there were a ton before and after, and still there at Tech. So it's a great little spot, Ruston, Louisiana, and I'm very fortunate for my time there.
Yeah. So now let's fast forward to your time at in and out of UD. The program there is really fantastic, and you guys bring in some exceptional athletes, and you've had the ability to work with some just absolute monsters. The first one obviously that pops into mind is Obi. But looking at that with such a high level guy in a quote unquote mid-major, even though we fight it, and we say that the A10 isn't how the equations are now. I mean, it basically is you're either in the 5 or you're not. How does your day-to-day work in that situation where you have a lot of guys with super high aspirations and are super high level in a mid-major conference?
I think in my role, I don't know that it really changes versus if you're at one of those other programs. Obi was a unique one where he came in and most people know this had to redshirt academically. He didn't qualify. And that year, I mean, he came in 188 pounds, soaking wet, and he was just a young kid who didn't know what he didn't know, and like a lot of other strength coaches who are working with young freshmen, man, you're trying to teach them habits, you're trying to teach them ways to hold themselves accountable, and then just creating training foundations, making sure you understand what's going on with their bodies and what's the right patterns to load them in, and just keep them moving. I think there's a ton of great strength coaches who can speak to a lot of different loading schemes and different ways to do it. But I think at the end of the day, the biggest thing is keep it simple, progressively overload, and really make sure the habits for consistency are there. I think that's becoming harder and harder in the transfer portal era to establish training age and then to maintain consistency year in, year out. But that's what it is. And I think, there's different ways to be creative. There's definitely things that can lead to success. It may be better for one situation versus not, but that's it. I mean, we're all problem solving in a different way, but those guys that I've had have been, they weren't just great athletes or basketball players. They're also exceptional human beings. Like not one kid who is playing in the NBA right now was a kid who was like, yeah, he's really talented, but it was hard keeping them there, like from the neck up every day. Like they were great kids. So I think I was really, really fortunate to have them um, in my career and just the opportunity to work with them. And yeah, they're it's that simple, but it's not. I don't know. Um,
Yeah, I mean
yeah.
that fits right in with AG's reputation too, though, right? That he's not going to bring in, you know, the problems. He's going to bring in good guys who are good at ball, who are going to put in the work. So, how are some of these ways that you've been able to communicate and like build those foundational routines, or however we want to refer to it, with these guys?
Yeah. So I think, early on in my time here, I'm doing a lot more, I would say like screening and testing just to see like, hey, what's going on? Like we've had a couple guys come through with FAI. That's been one where it's like, all right, you really got to understand what's going on there and what's the correct way to load them. Like, Obi, I never squatted. He had bilateral FAI, and if you ever watch him play, like he is some of the probably the best I've ever been around at north south jumping. His ability to use elastic energy, the best that I've ever seen. But lateral, that was a weakness for him, and part of that stems from just the FAI and what he had going on. Tumani was kind of similar, but could move a lot better laterally. But still things that we had to work around with that. And then Duran was another one. So I mean, they're both three of those kind of had that similar pattern, but it was just to varying extents or limitations. Um, so yeah, after seeing that body type a couple of times, it was just all right. What's the correct compound movement for them to load? Let's periodize around it. And then the biggest thing for a lot of them, like Tumani, kind of already, he transferred in from Georgia, so he was already kind of a man amongst boys, and just he had some of the best habits from someone walking in the door that I had ever been around. So there wasn't a whole lot, but what Tumani did was help elevate our culture just by being who he was. Not that those other guys weren't culture guys, but like, hey, all right, meet me at 7 a.m. at the cafeteria. We're eating breakfast. Then you're going to come down and train, and you're going to carry a water gallon jug, or we're going to, is that stuff that you're just like relentlessly pursuing the basics and staying on them. And, I say this, but I have a staff that supports me in that endeavor, right? So like, there's probably a lot of other strength coaches who are trying to do things as simple as that. But if you don't have everyone supporting that and holding that standard, it becomes a lot more challenging. And then it's also the environment. Like you said, Coach Grant really preaches development and preaches accountability and high standards, not just as basketball players, but as human beings. So it allows for that environment to kind of take place, and it makes my job a lot easier. So, yeah.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to Obi's twitchiness, yeah, I had a
Yep.
really good view of that a couple times.
Me too, man. Me too.
Yeah. I only had a couple. I'm sure that you've got some even better stories, but yeah, I think too, looking at it, You brought up at least one guy. Did Duran transfer in, or did he come in as a freshman?
No, Duran came in as a freshman, and then Tumani transferred in from Georgia. Yep.
Yeah. So dealing with these transfer portal guys, though, how has this now impacted how Casey looks at the calendar, both in the, let's call it the 8 to 10 months, right, that we have from May, June when they show up, and then also the 4 year, right? Like looking at, you get a new guy who maybe you're starting with the goal of hoping to have the ability to work with them for 4 years. How has this new environment and this new normal pivoted that?
Sure. So I think you could probably attest to it. I think we've talked about it before, and there's probably a lot of others that can. Is these kids come in the portal, and they're entering wherever their school is, and anywhere from late March to May now, whatever it may be, and they're probably not doing to the level of what I would call a minimum basketball capacity. They're not doing that day in, day out for about 6 to 8 weeks. So the big thing that I've talked with our staff and with coach is like summer one or whatever it is, like I know we're excited. We got all these guys, like we just have to establish minimum basketball work capacity. So like, yes, like you want to look at how they fit, how the pieces fit, because you have so many new pieces, but like, let's just establish a work capacity, even if it's 2 weeks, right? So your normal transition period. And if we can all kind of work in conjunction with, let's just get that. And then let's take a look at what they are. It's been really good for us. So kind of first 2 weeks to, almost through summer one, that's what I'm looking at is, all right, like before where we're kind of working on GPP, maybe some hypertrophy work. Like I've almost flipped it to where like any GPP and hypertrophy work, I'm starting in April with my kids because that's the time that the basketball court is the least involved, right? Where like it used to be in summer one, summer two, like you had, 6-2 or 8-0 from an hour standpoint to work with these kids. You don't anymore. And everyone's excited to get in, to get to work, and they're not ready. They're not ready to work. So I kind of just go to like, what's our best heavy compound movements that I think are going to agree with the kid. Let's just establish some strength qualities in that and a work capacity around that and get them to the court. And then that kind of builds out into, different intensification, realization periods of strength and power. And maybe there's hypertrophy depending on the kid, but like it's almost like I hate it because it goes away from what a lot of these kids need, but they're the amount of basketball that has to occur or the coaches feel like has to occur in the summertime, like it hamstrings us, right? So any of my returners, like I'm hammering that stuff in April, May, which is kind of odd, but it's worked well because I feel like they're on the court the least and that adaptation could occur. Um, and then from there, it's just after that, like when we get into, building up from what we call style of play here at Dayton, or where we're just trying to get basically 3 to 4 minute games and build up our capacity to play 3 to 4 minute games from late July or August all the way to, the start of our exhibitions, which are now like early to mid October. So we almost work backwards. How many, minutes do we think these guys have to play in October? And let's work backwards week by week, coach, of where we should be at. Because I think a lot of times coaches are really good teachers, the basketball coaches, so they see the tactical part, they see the technical part, but the physical progression on the basketball court sometimes is hard because you're bringing in all these pieces that either are ready to learn, not to learn, fit what you want to do, don't quite fit what you want to do, and so the physical part gets lost because we're trying to figure out the tactical. So I think providing those frameworks that we can keep going in that way has had a success for us at least early in the year. And then now in season, it's like, hey, I'm just going to hammer training age with the kids that aren't playing really heavy minutes. Heavy minute kids, like let's still just soft tissue readiness, make sure your nervous system is going, make sure we're hitting as much strength as we can given the competitive, game schedule. But I'm just hammering training age in the sense that like, hey, once once we have our 2 weeks off and the season ends and we're in April, like I want to go because there's not another time to do it.
Hmm.
And that's kind of, I guess, the pivot or the change that I've made. But yeah, it's harder. It's a lot harder. And I think the other thing you have to do is just sit there and say, hey, I'm just not going to compound the issue, right? So let me, at the end of the day, like I want bigger, faster, stronger. I want to help. We're all competitors. It's why we do it. But I'm not going to compound the issue. Do the best in the parameters you're given, and keep it moving.
Yeah, I think that that's really the hardest part, especially for younger coaches that, they pick up all these books and they listen to all these podcasts and they're like, but I gotta, but I gotta, but I gotta. It's like, yeah, but you gotta remember you're a support staffer, right? You gotta support the players and the staff and make sure that the players are ready for the staff and all that. I think that's a huge point that Jay 15 years ago probably would have, put on his meathead helmet and banged it into the wall and been like, no must lift. And it's, I mean, we train 4 days a week all season, but it's built out differently. And I think that evolution has come in a similar mindset. Selfishly though, I do want to run down one rabbit hole. You said that you establish compound moves that are appropriate for each guy. Is there a specific evaluation? Is this Casey's, 8 years at UD and his 10 plus years in college basketball and like the art of coaching aspect? Or is there something specific that you're looking at and you're saying, this guy can squat, this guy can trap bar, this guy can leg press, so on and so forth?
All of the above. So,
Awesome.
I have a great athletic trainer, Mike Mulcahy, my assistant athletic trainer
Big
at
shout
South
out to
Davis.
Mike.
Mike, yep. So, getting a really good, thorough, medical history from these guys. He's really good and on it. Um, Looking for any kind of red flags, like are these kids missing? Are their internal rotation just not there? And I think you could sit there and say, let me measure it, but I think if you watch the kid move enough in one or two lifts, like a lot of us, if we've been doing it long enough, you could sit there and go, yeah, no, but you're that kid. So it's a combination of both. I think any kid that I can get to deep knee bend in a squat, that's what I'm after. But I certainly have kids that, trap bar. I certainly have kids that leg press, and it's just kind of understanding. Like I've got on this team, I've got one kid who's has a history in prior school of bilateral, uh, bilateral. Oh my gosh, inguinal abdominal hernias, right? It would be kind of counterproductive to axial load in that. So trap bar, boom. He could definitely deep knee bend and squat probably better than 90% of my kids walking through the door. His strength coach prior school did a fantastic job, but with that prior injury, axial loading is probably not the best for interabdominal pressure. Another kid I have jump out of the gym, um, chondromalacia on one knee. So, all right, any kind of shear force on that patella, not going to be great. All right, we're going to keep you in trap bar and leg press, and just kind of from there. And then it evolves. I've had kids like Javon Bennett when he first got here could barely goblet squat on like a 30-degree ramp, and now he's doing a really good job back squatting on 10-degree incline. So it evolves over time, but I think you got to find, we don't have time to like go through the correctives, go through the progressions. And some people may argue with me, and I think that's great. And I think if you have a success for how you do it, I think the biggest thing is you have to know when you're getting there. At some point you got to hit those high intensity lifts in heavy compounds. And if you're not, you're missing the boat. 15 years ago, which is when I first started, I missed the boat on understanding like, well, this kid has this anterior pelvic tilt and this kid, get them loading, and then go from there. Because if you don't, you're doing them a disservice, in my opinion. But yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like crazy to say that you can, if you identify what the problems are and you avoid the problems, they can get better.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if that's the other thing too, if kids are having, I was talking with Mike, our trainer, about this yesterday, like if kids are having pain, subjective pain to, any type of movement pattern, like, all right, then let's take a look at that foot over pronates, this hip's missing out. But if they're not and they're having success, like find a successful way to load them and stay out of the way. Because as you know, these kids are freaks. They've found movement patterns that are successful for them. Um, there's a lot of other people in other schools that I think have great success in maybe getting one standard of squatting or one standard of that, and they do a really great job. And I'm not knocking them at all, but I think there's more to be said on let me find what's successful, load it, get them in, get them out, get them to the court. And I think that's you know that's not to say over their time here you can't improve that or correct that or whatever, but I do think the time you have to do that in and the developmental years. Like I had a coach tell me like, why are we recruiting freshmen anymore? Not a knock on freshmen, but why are we recruiting freshmen? Because at the end of the day, there's not a ton that are ready to hop in. So the best thing might be let them play, and if you feel like they're like keep an eye on them, and I mean it's sad, but it's what it is. So if we're not recruiting freshmen, which we have two freshmen, and I think we're going to continue to recruit freshmen here, that's just the coach's personal preference. Um, but if you're not going down that rabbit hole of freshmen and development, like you got to change your model. So adapt or die.
Yeah, and I think that the whole idea of how you're doing it is fantastic. I mean, it's selfishly, because it's really similar to how we look at it. How Andy and I talk about it is it's like, okay, like what type of squatting can the guy do? Like, we're gonna try all 7 of them or whatever the list is that we have,
Right.
and basically go back and be like, what was best and why? And like, obviously we get a different kind of guy here too. Like, a lot of them are going to want to have those discussions with it, but if they can tell you why, it's just like, okay, well, there's the rack.
Similar like you said, like Jay 15 years ago, like man, like I've found the best thing I could ever do and the best thing for young strength coaches out there. Like I was very heavy Olympic lifts. Like we are going to go through all our Olympic lifting progressions, derivatives of it, and all around it. And I had a couple kids on the year we went 29-2, hated it, and I just sat there and go, why am I doing this? Like they're not putting effort and intent in. They're not doing any of the correctives to try and really get better at it. Like I got half the team doing it beautifully, the other half like, F you. Like, all right, so let me find what you have fun doing. Like if effort and intent and buy-ins there, like you can get better in other ways. So I think that's the biggest thing that I wish I could go back and tell myself is, man, help these kids find the patterns and the lifts that they fall in love with lifting. Cause I don't know about you, like I'm old now. I know you're going to make a joke about old age and I'm young or whatever. Uh, like I know what I like to lift. I know what my body does not like to lift at this point. So every time I lift, I want to have fun and enjoy it. Why not give that to your athletes too?
Yeah, I would make a joke, but you ruined it. And but no, man, I think that there's so much to that. Like, we say it a little differently here, where it's like there's a reason the guy is here, and if he's good at things and enjoys things, and those things can help, and whether you have metrics or subjectively you can observe it, why wouldn't you do that? It was really funny. Like, when we were down in Disney last week, there was another coach who I super, like, top of the heap respect. This guy, he was in the room with one of his players, and we had like our game day arm farm that is sort of turned into like this cult thing. We had 4 managers, a starter, a walk on, 2 red shirts, a reserve, an assistant coach, and then another assistant coach on the treadmill, and our AT on the treadmill. He's like, "You had a squad in there." And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, all saying some questionable jokes and ripping on each other, doing chest buys and tries, and it's like, it's all designed so A, the walk-ons don't mess up the walk-through of the shoot around, but B, like, there's something to actually having fun with our jobs and remembering that, like, yeah, was I up at 5? Sure. I mean, like, does that kind of suck sometimes? Sure. But I'm in a weight room in shorts, a t-shirt, and like sneakers. Like, we don't even put a belt on for work. Like,
Yeah.
like there's a lot of good to this. So like, for the people that complain and want to nitpick and fight about all these things, man, we really do have a job that you should be able to have a lot of fun with. And you're around young people that, even when you look as like old and pruny as I do, like they keep you young. Like you
Yeah.
have a blast with them. So
Yeah.
like, live it up and love it, man. Like that's what I told Andy on his interview. He's like, what's one thing that I should know? And I'm like, there's no one that's going to have more fun at the end of the bench in the country of the 365 teams than Jay DeMayo and his athletic trainer. And you better understand that. Like, I'm not sitting through 35 college basketball games being miserable. Like, no, sir. Like,
Yep.
we are going to have a lot of fun. And
Hell yeah.
we talk about, buy-in and all this stuff. Like, man, if you love it and you really do love your guys, they're going to love it. And they're going to be there every day. Like, shoot, dude, we had 11 guys in at 7 a.m. Like, it's rad because you give them some fun. You let them have some autonomy. Throw some gym awares on it, make it a little competitive, and just going after it, having a good time. And I think that there's so much of that. And like, it's crazy to me that like that team is the one that taught you that, because like we argue back and forth, like whether that was the best team we've seen in the A10 or the Jameer Nelson St. Joe's team.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I was like, they were really good. Like,
We had
but
some
like
fun,
the
man.
lesson from them, man, is like that might even be the most important part.
No doubt. No doubt.
Well, listen, Casey, this has been a sensational 30 minutes, bro. Let me get you out of here on this. I'm gonna selfishly make a little run here through the league and get a bunch of the people on here, because I do think, especially like we just added Cliff. Like, I think that the A10 has some of the best coaches in America when it comes to what we're doing. There's you at UD. I mean, the guys that just pop off. There's Handy, Roos down the road. I mean, there's just Justin Ray. Does an amazing job at LaSalle. Like, there's just so many guys that are not just great coaches but great people. And I always want to learn from the people that I want to learn from. So to get you out of here, bro, and let you get to shoot around, who is one person that Casey wants to hear from on the podcast?
Definitely Roos. Let's get Roos on here.
All right. Well, Roos is going to be on the list already. I might just walk down the street. It's only like 5 miles and knock on the door. But Danny, I'm going to text you right now and let you know that we're going to talk probably next week and get you on the show, bro. But yeah, man, like, Keon's doing great work at Mason.
Yeah.
We're really fortunate to have some amazing guys. And I'm leaving people out. I'm sorry, guys. There's 15 dudes that are top notch, and I think too, like, if you look at where guys go, right? Like, Ed came in following you, went to the Lakers. MJ was at GW, went to Butler, and now is with the Wizards. Like, people leave the A10 and it's like huge jobs. Rob Hornet, he left and went to Memphis and is now at Liberty, like guys that make really huge moves and are at really awesome places. And it's just, I think that more people need to know the great work that all of you guys are doing, man. And I really appreciate you. I really appreciate your friendship. And I really appreciate you giving Mike a shout out, because I know that he's one of Andy's favorite guys in the league too, bro. And I can't wait to see you here in like 6 weeks, bro.
I'm looking forward to it.
Catch up in center court, man.
Yeah.
And get a
No, we didn't drink the night before. There we go.
Yeah, brother. Well, yeah, Casey, as always, bro, great to see you, man. Best of luck the rest of the way, and we'll be in touch real soon.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, man. Cheers.